I didn't go looking for a twin flame. I didn't even know what one was. I was living my life, doing what I was supposed to do, being who I was supposed to be. And then someone walked into it. And nothing made sense after that, not in a romantic movie kind of way. In a disorienting, identity-shaking, why can't I stop thinking about this kind of way? In a way that made me question things I had never questioned before. Things about myself, about what I actually wanted, about who I had been pretending to be for a very long time. That's where this story starts. Not with a love story, with a collision. The first thing I noticed was that it didn't feel new. That's the thing nobody prepares you for. When you meet someone and it feels like you've already met them. Not deja vu exactly, more like recognition. Like your nervous system already knew the shape of this person before your brain had time to catch up. I remember thinking, why does this feel so familiar? There was no logical answer for that. We hadn't known each other long. We hadn't shared a history, but something in me responded before I could think about it. Like a door opening that I didn't know was closed. The conversations didn't feel like getting to know someone. They felt like remembering someone. We'd talk and I'd lose track of time completely. I'd say something and they'd finish the thought. I'd feel something and it would show up in what they said next. It was like the small talk phase never existed. We just went straight to the deep end. And underneath all of that was something harder to name. A pull, not just attraction, something older than that. Something that felt like it mattered in a way that regular relationships hadn't. I didn't have a word for it yet. I just knew I'd never felt anything like it. Here's where it gets honest. Because what happened next wasn't beautiful. It was destabilizing. The connection didn't stay warm and mutual. It started moving back and forth, close and then distant, present and then gone. And every time it pulled away, I felt it in my body. Not just emotionally, physically, a tightness in my chest, a restlessness I couldn't sit still inside, a brain that wouldn't stop running calculations I hadn't asked it to run. I started tracking things I never would have tracked before. Message frequency, response times, what they posted, what they didn't, whether the silence meant something or nothing, whether I was reading it right or catastrophizing. I became someone I didn't fully recognize, someone whose nervous system had decided that this one person was the answer to a question I couldn't even fully articulate. If you've been in this, you know exactly what I'm describing, and I didn't understand what was happening to me. I just knew I couldn't logic my way out of it. I couldn't decide to stop caring. I couldn't talk myself into calm. The more distance there was, the more my brain hunted for reassurance. The more reassurance I found, the more I needed. It was a loop I didn't know how to exit. On top of that, things in my regular life started shifting in ways I hadn't expected. Old parts of my identity started feeling like costumes I was tired of wearing. Relationships that used to feel natural started feeling like performances. Things I'd accepted for years started feeling impossible to keep accepting. It was like the connection had turned up a light inside me. And now I could see everything else more clearly, including the things I'd been avoiding. I started saying things I wouldn't have said before. I'm struggling, actually. That really hurt. I don't want to pretend we're something we're not. Not because I had it figured out, because the truth started costing me more to hold in than to say out loud. That scared me. But it also felt like oxygen. The spiritual side started showing up too. Numbers that repeated in ways I couldn't dismiss, themes that appeared too consistently to be coincidence, content that landed at the exact moment I needed it, or thought I needed it, signs that I grabbed onto with both hands because I was hungry for proof that what I was experiencing had meaning. And here's what I know now that I didn't know then. The meaning was real. The hunger for proof was the problem. I need to stop here and say something that I think gets left out of most twin flame content. Because at some point I've found the community, the videos, the readers, the coaches, the collective messages. And for a little while it helped. It gave me a framework. It told me I wasn't crazy. It told me the connection was real, that the stages were real, that what I was feeling had a name. But then something else happened. The more content I consumed, the more activated I became. Not calmer, more activated. Every video told me what was coming. Every reading told me what they were feeling. Every divine timing message told me to wait, Hold on, trust the process. And I did. I kept waiting. I kept holding on. And my world got smaller. I'd be calm for a few hours after a reading, and then the clarity would fade, and I'd go looking for another one. I'd find a video that described my situation perfectly and feel relief. And 30 minutes later, I'd need another one. I was using content the way someone uses a substance, not for insight, for relief from a nervous system that had no idea how to regulate itself anymore. And nobody in that space was telling me that. Nobody was saying, hey, if you feel worse after this, that's information. Nobody was asking whether the framework was making my world bigger or smaller. Everyone was certain. Everyone had an answer. And I was desperate enough to keep listening. The twin flame space can do real damage if it isn't honest about this. Dependency isn't devotion. Obsession isn't love. And certainty sold to a suffering person isn't guidance. It's a business model. I had to figure that out the hard way. I had to sit with the discomfort of not knowing. I had to stop outsourcing my peace to other people's interpretations. I had to ask myself the question I'd been avoiding. Is this journey making me more whole or less? The answer, at that point, was less. And that's when something started to change. I wrote the book I needed when I was drowning, not to be an authority, not to tell anyone what their connection means, or whether they have a twin flame, or when reunion is coming. I wouldn't do that to someone, because no human being can tell you that. Anyone who says they can is lying to you, even if they believe what they're saying. I wrote it because I had lived inside that experience. The recognition, the obsession, the awakening, the shedding, the confusion, the searching. And I came out the other side with something I wished I'd had from the beginning, a grounded, honest framework that didn't require me to choose between my spirituality and my sanity. I believed in the connection, I still do, but I also know that belief without grounding can become a trap. I know what it feels like to use spiritual language to justify waiting for someone who isn't choosing you. I know what it feels like to be so activated that the content you're consuming is just adding fuel to a fire that's already burning you alive. So I wrote the guide, and then I wrote the fictional series, 14 volumes set across different lifetimes, because the question that haunted me most wasn't about this life. It was about all the lives before it. How many times had we been here? How many times had this story played out? Writing those volumes was how I processed something that didn't fit inside the language of one single human lifespan. And somewhere along the way, the writing became something bigger than me. People started reaching out. People who recognized themselves in the stages I described. People who felt less alone knowing someone had been exactly where they were. People who needed someone to say this experience is real, and it's also not an excuse to abandon yourself, and mean both things at the same time. That's why this channel exists. My name is Kristen May DeVoe. I'm the author of The Twin Flame Experience and the Journey Through Time saga. And this channel is going to be different from what you're used to seeing in this space. I'm not going to tell you when your person is coming back. I'm not going to do collective energy readings or promise divine timing. I'm not going to build a framework that makes you more dependent on my content to get through your day. That's not what I'm here for. What I am going to do is go deep. We're going to talk about the stages, the nervous system, the runner and chaser dynamic, the obsession loops, the spiritual side, and the psychological side, together honestly without choosing one over the other. We're going to talk about what the twin flame experience actually is, what it isn't, and how to move through it in a way that leaves you more whole, not less. If you found your way here from TikTok, welcome. If you found this video through search, welcome. If you're in the middle of the hardest part of this right now, stay. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I'll see you there.